Hey guys, Jason here with Gen Zion, and thanks for tuning in to Israel, A Story in Motion. This is our very first multi-part curriculum. This is a 6-part series. So before we go any further, I just wanted to inform you that if you're watching video 4 or video 6 right now, make sure you stop, go back to video 1 because these videos were created in sequential order, providing a broad biblical timeline from Genesis to Revelation regarding God's plans for the nation of Israel, past, present, and future. And it really provides so much exposure to the days you're living in today. So whether you're a supporter or you're skeptical as a believer or you're a critic when it comes to matching up the Bible and the nation of Israel, I'm just glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in. I hope I can give you some solid food for thought on a spiritual level. A couple of other things. As much as I would have loved to stop along the way and provide deep details for every single topic and pivotal turning point throughout this journey, time just doesn't permit, because we've engineered these to be short videos to provide you ample time if you're in study groups or whatever it is, whatever setting you're in, to really reflect on the material, which leads me to my next point. For each of the 6 parts of the series, we've created a PDF study guide, and a direct downloadable link can be found in the description below this video and each of the other episodes as well. This is for those of you who are leaders, small group leaders, youth pastors. We want to equip you with tools so that you can confidently engage the next generation and help them enhance their biblical worldview when it comes to the nation of Israel. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoy. God made an everlasting covenant with Abraham, a real people, a real land, a real promise. That covenant did not depend on human perfection. It depended on God's faithfulness. But that raises a serious question. If the promise was everlasting, why did Israel experience slavery, defeat, division, and exile? Did God fail? Did Israel lose the promise? Or is something more profound happening in the story? So let's connect the dots from Abraham to the exiles and see that what looks like chaos and disorder is actually precision. What looks like failure is actually prophecy unfolding in real time. The key to understanding everything that follows is Genesis 15. In Genesis 12, God called Abraham and promised him 3 things: a people, a land, and blessing for the whole world. But in Genesis 15, God reiterates the promise and then adds something remarkable, a prophecy about the future of Abraham's descendants. God told Abraham 3 things. First, his descendants will become strangers in a foreign land. Second, they will be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years. Third, God himself will judge that nation, bring his people out with great possession, and return them to the land he's given them. Think about what that means. What are the implications? Centuries before Israel even becomes a nation, God predicts slavery, deliverance, return. When Israel ends up in Egypt, Genesis 15 is unfolding. When they are enslaved, Genesis 15 is unfolding. When Moses leads them out in the Exodus, Genesis 15 is unfolding. And when they return to the land, Genesis 15 is unfolding. This isn't random at all. This is prophecy. The story moves from Abraham to his descendants, Isaac, Jacob, and Jacob's 12 sons. One of those sons is named Joseph. Joseph's brothers sell him into slavery and he ends up in Egypt. But through God's providence, Joseph eventually rises to become second in command under Pharaoh. Because of a severe famine in the region, Joseph's family moves to Egypt. At first, Egypt is a place of refuge and provision, but generations later, everything changes. Exodus 1 tells us that a new Pharaoh arises who does not remember Joseph. And suddenly, the descendants of Israel are seen as a threat. So Pharaoh enslaves them. Israel remains a distinct people, but they're a distinct people in bondage. This is exactly what God told Abraham would happen in Genesis 15. For roughly 400 years, Israel grows into a massive population inside Egypt. And then God raises up a man named Moses. The Exodus is one of the most defining moments in biblical history. Through Moses, God confronts Pharaoh and the gods of Egypt. The 10 plagues are not just punishments, but they're demonstrations that the God of Israel is in fact greater than the false gods of Egypt. Finally, after much anguish, Pharaoh releases the Israelites. And just as God promised Abraham in Genesis 15, the people leave Egypt with great wealth, but the Exodus is about more than escape. It's about identity. Because getting Israel out of Egypt was only the first step. The deeper challenge would prove itself to be getting the Egypt out of Israel. And what do I mean by that? Bear in mind that the people of Israel had adopted a defeated mindset. They had become comfortable with slavery as long as it meant survival. Idolatry was the norm on a routine basis in Egypt, but thank God he had greater plans for his people. After leaving Egypt, Israel crosses the Red Sea and enters the wilderness. This is where God begins shaping them into a nation. At Mount Sinai, God gives the Mosaic covenant through Moses. This covenant includes the law, the commandments, and the structure for how Israel is to conduct itself as a holy nation. And here we need to be very clear about something. The Abrahamic covenant and the Mosaic covenant are not the same. The Abrahamic covenant is about the promise, the people, the land, the global blessing, and it is everlasting. The Mosaic covenant is about something different. It governs how Israel will live inside the land. It addresses justice, holiness, obedience, and national responsibility. It also introduces something new, blessings and curses. If Israel obeys God's commands, they experience blessing in the land. If they reject God's commands, they experience consequences, ultimately being driven from the land. But the Mosaic covenant does not cancel out the Abrahamic covenant. The promise still stands. The covenant with Abraham guarantees the future of the nation. Following the death of Moses, under Joshua's leadership, Israel finally enters the land God promised Abraham. Joshua leads the nation across the Jordan River, and the conquest of the land begins. Israel is now living in the very geography God defined. They are finally becoming what God promised Abraham, a nation. But a new question emerges. Will they live according to God's covenant, or will they reject it? The book of Judges answers this question for us. It also gives us one of the most transparent descriptions of human nature in the entire Bible. It ends with a very chilling summary. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. Israel repeatedly abandons God, turns to idolatry. Each time, the cycle unfolds. The people rebel, enemies oppress them, they cry out to God, God raises up a deliverer. These deliverers are the judges, leaders like Gideon, Deborah, and Samson. But the pattern continues again and again. This is exactly what the Mosaic covenant warned would happen. Blessings for obedience, curses for disobedience. Yet, even in Israel's rebellion, God continues to preserve the nation. How? Why? Because the Abrahamic covenant still stands. God's plan for redemption still stands. He's that intentional about your redemption, about my redemption. Eventually, the people of Israel make a shocking demand. In 1 Samuel 8, they demand a king. They want to be like all the other nations. God tells the prophet Samuel something heartbreaking. They have not rejected you. They have rejected me as their king. Israel was supposed to be different. According to Deuteronomy 4 and 7, they were meant to display God's wisdom and character to the nations. According to Isaiah 49:6, they were meant to be a light to the world. But instead of embracing that calling, they chose conformity. But even in this moment of rejection, God moves the plan forward. In 2 Samuel 7, God establishes the Davidic covenant. God promises that a descendant of David will rule forever, and this goes all the way back to Genesis 3. The promised seed, the Messiah, will come through David's line. Even when Israel acts in rebellion, God continues moving history toward redemption. And then we come to the divided kingdom. After the reign of David and his son Solomon, the kingdom fractures. The nation divides into two kingdoms, a northern kingdom of Israel, a southern kingdom of Judah. The northern kingdom quickly descends into idolatry and corruption. The southern kingdom has moments of revival, but also deep rebellion. This division is the result of generations of compromise and leadership failure. But it is also the natural consequences of the warnings given in the Mosaic covenant. Eventually, the warnings become reality. In 722 BC, the Assyrian Empire conquers the northern kingdom and scatters the tribes. More than a century later, in 586 BC, the Babylonian Empire conquers Jerusalem. The temple is destroyed, the city is burned, and the people are carried away into exile. From a human perspective, it would appear the story is over. The nation is seemingly gone, the land is lost, their holiest site of worship is destroyed. The covenant would seemed to be broken. But here's the key. The exile was predicted. Moses warned about this very scenario in Deuteronomy. The prophets warned about it for generations. Exile was not the cancellation of the Abrahamic covenant. It was the discipline of the Mosaic covenant. Even in exile, God continues speaking. The prophet Jeremiah had already foretold that the Babylonian exile would last 70 years. In Babylon, a young Jewish exile named Daniel reads Jeremiah's prophecy. Daniel realizes that the 70 years are nearly complete, so he begins to pray. And God responds with one of the most remarkable prophecies in Scripture, the prophecy of the 70 weeks in Daniel 9. This prophecy is about Jerusalem and the Jewish people and the future of the nation. This prophecy reveals that Israel's story is not finished, the Messiah is coming, and the covenant still stands. Israel did not disinherit itself from the promise. They rejected the blessings in disobedience, they experienced the consequences, but the covenant remained. The Abrahamic covenant secured their future. The Mosaic covenant explained their discipline. And the Davidic covenant guaranteed the Messiah through David's lineage. This is why exile did not destroy Israel. And side note, no other nation in world history has experienced multiple exiles from its ancestral homeland, yet still kept its national identity abroad, then returned to the land. That's how you know God is in this story. God's plan does not collapse when humans fail. And that matters for you and me, because if God keeps his promises to a nation that repeatedly failed, then you can trust him too. Your sin does not cancel his faithfulness. For now, don't forget that history is not random. Prophecy is not allegorical. Real people, real places, real events. And the story of Israel is still in motion.